Okay, so we're going to make the flowers now, and I've got the larger of the two sponges, and I've got it loaded like a stamp pad, and I've got the purple mixture. And what I want to do is just press down on it to make a nice circle. And if I need to, I will turn it a little bit. And we're going to do 3 of these. I am overlapping the line. And while I have this color out and these are drying, I'm going to use the smaller portion of the smaller sponge and do the same thing up here. Well, let's just go with 3. And I may have to come in and do it a second time once they dry to make sure that they're base coated okay. Okay, we're going to work a little bit on finishing up the flowers. I did end up putting in the color for the flowers twice. And so what I've done is I've come in with my soapstone and just put in 3 curvy lines. It almost looks like an eye in here. I also have my template for my daisy, and I'm going to come in. I do let a couple of the petals come over if necessary to keep it down. I want it a little bit lower. And I'm going to have to repeat this twice. So the first time I'm going to come in with light buttermilk only because light buttermilk is a little bit more opaque than white. And I'm going to use my dauber, and I'm going to center this daisy between the 2 flowers. So I'm loading my dauber, and I want to make sure I don't have too much paint in it. Then I'm going to come in and this will need a second coat. It's just the nature of the beast. Okay, we're going to let that dry. I also want to come in and I'm going to use foliage green. And I'm going to use a stencil brush for this, a very small stencil brush. And we're going to use the stencil here. And I want to add a few leaves up above like I've done here. This will go right over where the fur is because the flowers are in front of the rabbit. So I'm going to come in and just use a small stippling brush. And I'll explain why I'm using a small brush as soon as I'm done pouncing it in. Then I'm going to lift it up, and then where those little holes are, I'm going to just fill them in so that it looks a little bit more like real leaves instead of stylized leaves. And then we can also do another one over here. I like using the different shapes of the leaves. Again, I lift it and then just fill in where that little hole is, right like that. And I'm losing hairs to my brush. And now I'm going to use this size stencil that I created. And anyway, I'm going to come in and we're going to make these yellow. And this is also going to take 2 applications. I'll do that one, and then I'll put one down over here. Make sure you see what I'm doing. So you can see this is going half off of the flag, so I just want to get some yellow in there. So over here I've already come in and done it once, so I'm going to come in and line this up. And we'll come in a second time and it should look a lot brighter, a lot more opaque. Yellow is a pain to deal with, so if you have to, mix a little bit of light buttermilk in with it. Yellow is very transparent. It's just the nature of the color. Oh, that's much brighter. As you can see how that popped up. Okay, I'm going to go back into my daisy, line it up, and give it a coat of Snow White. Now what I want to do is put some pink flowers around, and I'm going to use my darker pink. I'm trying to make both sides fairly symmetrical with where I'm placing the flowers and things like that. So I think that looks pretty good. And then we're going to work on this a little bit, and we're going to come in with our dry brushing brush. And I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm using a number 6 Mounds Around for my creative blending set. And so I've already completed the first stage up over here. And so I wanted to show you how I did that. So the first thing I do is I follow this line by dragging. And I have a lot of paint in this brush. There's no water in the brush, but there's a lot of paint. And I'm just dragging it, making those strokes, and it's going to make it look like there could be multiple petals there. And I'm going to just continue stroking like this, and then we'll also stroke like this. When I come in the center, I'm going to just do little circles. So we'll go into a little bit lighter color pink. And I'm going to cover just a smaller area. And I need to do that over here too. So this is almost full strength paint over here, but I kind of like the effect I'm getting. So it's, like I said, it's not a true dry brush. The brush itself has no water in it, but I do have a lot of paint on the brush. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the back half of our paint brushes, and we're going to just make 3 little dots right in the center. What I want to do is take either an old number 3 round or a small stippling brush, and I'm going to just make some white filler flowers throughout this whole thing. So what I'm going to do is simply come in and just stipple very lightly. Maybe I'll put one over a leaf here. And we're going to randomly put these all around to look like there's just a whole bouquet of flowers growing here. This underneath side, the underneath that we did, I purposely made that so it would look like it was just a variety of vines and leaves growing in the background. And again, I'm just stippling around with the white. You don't want to press too hard. Now to this daisy over here, I'm going to take my dauber and just pounce in the center using the circle that's on the template. And my dauber was a little bit wet. You have to make sure your dauber's dry all the way or just damp all the way. So really spend time pulling the water out of the sponge of the dauber. And now I'm going to come over here and line this up on the yellow flowers. And to the smaller white ones, I'm going to just take the back half of my paintbrush and use some of the white, and I'll put white centers in all of the pink flowers. Then when everything's dry, we come in with a Identa pen, or you can use a liner brush. So what I'm going to do is come in and just create some dimension. And these bigger flowers, I think I can use the thicker side, but I'll press lightly. Now I need to be careful because there's a lot of wet dots around here, but then what I do is I take the thin side and I go over and I just take my liner brush, or I take the liner brush, or I take the Identa pen, and I convince the eye that these are little leaves by outlining them. To the little flowers, I just go around them. So I'm essentially very loosely outlining all the flowers. And I like doing it very loose, so maybe it's not right along the edge. On these, I do a line and some dots. And I'm purposely coming off the white and onto the green area. And then I'll pull 3 lines in the center. I outline this, and then I'm going to just bring in a little swirl. You cannot press hard when you're using any of these markers, because if you do, they might clog. And I love the Adenta pens. So with the Stippled Flowers, what I'm going to do is just kind of go around them very loosely to make you know that they're there, because otherwise they just look like little white blobs. And then I'll pull a little line. And that's too wet, so let's see, we'll do this. But the rest of them will all be done the same way. So I'm going to let it dry, and I will finish it, and then I'll be back. Now to his bow, I took and I used the blue for the background, and I made little dots using the end of my paintbrush, and I loaded them each time. And then you can see over here, this has a highlight. And what we're going to do is we're going to just come in using the white and a dry brush, and I'm going to just kind of go back and forth, and then eventually come down. And I'll go right over some of those dots that are in the highlight area, because in the shadows and in the lightest areas, in all honesty, the texture or patterns will not show as much. And I'll reinforce it a little bit over here and in the center here. I decided I want to bring a little bit of blue in here too, so I have a small little stippling brush. And I'm going to add some more of these little filler flowers in blue. I'll just randomly put them in. And I'm even putting some over the bigger flowers. So to finish up, we're going to talk about the lettering, and I essentially trace the lettering on. When I trace it, I do use a see-through ruler to try to keep my lines nice and straight, and especially on this particular font, so many of the edges are straight, and so I find that using the see-through ruler really helps. Then in order to keep the letters from growing, I outline them first, and I just took my liner brush with the pink color, and we're going to then come in and we're going to use full strength paint. When I lined around the outside edges, I thinned it a little bit because I was using my liner brush. Now we're going to come in, and I'm just using a number 3 round. And what's really neat with a round brush is if you push it really hard and it's full of paint, let me show you. It can become like a flat brush. So see, instead of it having a point, it has like a flatness to it, just like a flat brush. So I can go in and just pull this down, and I'm coming in between where I lined, and then it's not going to grow. Now I may need to apply this multiple times, probably twice, because this is a fairly semi-transparent paint, and I'm not going to be able to cover in one coat, but that's okay because I know I'm going to stay within these lines each time. And then what I did, as you can see on some of the rest of the lettering, is I came in and I lined with the purple mixture. So I have this little circle here, and I'm going to just take my liner brush, and the paint is thinned with water again, and I go along the outside edge and outline it. And it will dry a little bit darker. And that's what I've done with all of the lettering. So he's all done, and this is the finished banner. I wanted to zoom into the flowers. And then here's his cute little face. And then these are the bottom flowers. Well, the bunny is all done, and I wanted to show you the whole banner. I love the flowers and his cute little face. And I added some dimensional aspects to it, so I added some buttons. And also, I decided to add some bling, so we have some rhinestones and some pearls, and the rhinestones are in different colors. And it just gives it a little bit of sparkle, which I just really, really like a lot. I wanted to show you that I just have a dowel rod, and I just painted the ends with off-white. And so I'm going to hang it like that. It just slides through like that. And the dowel rods you can get at any of the craft stores. So then once the dowel rod was on, what I've done is I've just come in and I've looped some ribbon and added a bow to it, and it will hang from a hook from my door. And it just brought in all the colors of the bunny, and they have all kinds of spring ribbons out right now. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm glad that we could get together and paint this fun banner. And if you're looking for the e-packet, it's on my website at debbiecole.com. So head on over to my website, and until next time, may painting always bring you joy.